So good morning students. Today we will start chapter Newton's laws of motion. Though in class 9 you have already gone through this chapter as you know all the three laws, but here you will learn something in detail. I am not going to state all the three laws because you already know this, but before starting this chapter you need to know some key concept. I think it is worth to discuss. Now you will know that Newton's laws of motion deals with the mass, force, momentum, all these, isn't it? So first of all, I will just describe something in very nutshell. That is about mass. Clear? We all are generally in our everyday life. We generally discuss about mass. Basically in physics, everything deals with mass. Clear? So these mass are generally are of three types. Okay. So number one, you can see this is rest mass. Rest mass means when a body is at rest. It means when velocity is zero. So at these circumstances, the mass possessed by the body is called rest mass. Second is inertial mass. Inertia, you all are familiar with inertia. That is its inherent property to oppose its change in motion or state of rest or motion. It means whatever it wants to remains in its previous state. So inertial mass means generally the objects in our daily life we see in our daily life having velocity much less than that of speed of light, because we all know that the speed of light is the ultimate, is the optimum. Now is there any object having velocity equal to or greater than speed of light? No, never. So in our daily life all the objects, a walking person, a moving train, bus, everything moves with a velocity much less than that of speed of light. So the mass of those particles are generally constant, because suppose when a train or bus is at one place, suppose is at Bolpur, and it is moving with a speed or velocity 100 km per hour, when it will reach in Calcutta, its mass will be same. So it means its mass is not going to be changed. Not only that, in between, meanwhile during journey its mass is considered to be constant. It means its mass will not change. So this kind of mass are called inertial mass. It means the objects in our daily life having velocity much less than that of velocity of light. Number three is the relativistic mass. Relativistic mass is generally related to Einstein's theory of relativity. It means that apart from these two masses, this is absolutely different mass. It means when the velocity of a body is very close to in the order of velocity of light, then its mass significantly increases to a greater extent. This is called relativistic mass. As velocity increases, its mass is going to increase. So in that case, mass is not constant. So this kind of mass is called relativistic mass, which is not possible in our daily life, because in our practical life it is not possible for any object to attain velocity equals to velocity of light. So from Newton's second law we have already learned that is rate of change of momentum is equals to applied force. So rate of change of momentum we already know that is what is momentum. Momentum is the motional mass with motion or motion with mass. Okay, so del or delta represents, this small triangle represents the change, a small change. So since momentum is the product of mass and velocity, so we can say the momentum changes either due to change in its mass or velocity or both. Clear? But in our daily life, as I say, that the objects having velocity much less than that of speed of light, so their mass is not going to be changed, their mass remains constant. So in that case this is applicable. Clear? This is m into delta v, where m is constant, we can assume. But if the velocity of the body is comparable to velocity of light, then we can say that is it is changing both due to change in mass. At first mass is mass due to change in velocity, and then again due to change in mass. Clear? So where m is not constant. So these three things I think you need to know. Then inertial frame of reference, I think it is one of the most important thing. What is frame of reference? Frame of reference means something with respect to which we judge other things. It is just like to describe the motion, the position of anything. Generally we assume something as a standard, so that thing is generally referred to as the frame of reference. Generally we say that is good, bad, everything, isn't it? That is bad with respect to good. So here good is the standard, isn't it? That is failure with respect to which, in comparison to success. Here success we assume as standard. So with respect to success, if anybody don't get it, doesn't get success, it is called failure. So everything we judge with respect to something, so which is generally assumed as standard, it is called reference. Our frame of reference means a system. Inside our earth, generally we assume earth is at rest, and with respect to earth we generally judge or determine the motion, the state of motion, position of everything. So earth is the perfect example of frame of reference. Now what is inertial frame of reference? It means if a system or a frame of reference with respect to which we judge anything, that is the state of motion, the position, velocity of anything, if that frame of reference either is at rest or moving with constant velocity. You can see that is v is equal to 0, means having no velocity, okay, means is at rest, or constant, that is it means it cannot have any acceleration. Clear? In that case it is called inertial frame of reference, and in inertial frame of reference Newton's laws are applicable. Clear? Whereas non-inertial frame of reference means having acceleration or retardation. It means change in velocity will be there. It is neither at rest nor moving with constant velocity. It will grab, it will possess somehow, it will possess some acceleration. And this kind of reference, frame of reference, Newton's laws are not applicable. How? Let's see. Now, Newton's first law of motion you already know. Unless an external applied, any external force is applied, a rest body will remain in rest forever, and a body which is moving in straight line with constant motion, it will move, it will keep moving, continuing in the straight line without changing its velocity and direction. It will just move in straight, because we all know that change in direction also causes change in velocity. So suppose when a body, when anything is rest at the ground or on the floor, if you do not apply any external force, it is going to remain at rest. Clear? So that's why, okay, and again when a body is moving with constant velocity, it means it is also possess no acceleration. Okay, so if we don't apply any external force here, it is not going to be changed, it is not going to change its direction. Okay, so these are called Newton's law. These are called inertial frame of reference. So Newton's laws are applicable because we are not applying any force. So a body is remaining at rest, and with motion it will keep moving. Clear? When non-inertial frame of reference, Newton's laws are not applicable. Now suppose, it means Newton's law will not valid. It means suppose a ball or anything is rest, okay, on the floor of a bus or a train, and suppose the bus or train is moving with constant velocity. Clear? Now if it changes its velocity, if it increases velocity or decrease, what will happen? If it increases its velocity, it means it will increase the order of gear, isn't it? In case of Beckel also, sorry. So in that case, without application of any contact, I am talking about contact force, okay, any external force, the ball will move in the backward direction, isn't it? If you catch a ball inside the train, and if it moves with a constant velocity, it will just reach afterward into your hand. But if it increases its velocity, it means if it possesses acceleration, it will just drop in your backward. Or if it possesses some retardation, it will apply brake, the ball will just drop in your forward direction. So the example. So I just mean to say, if a ball is, or any object, suppose it is the perfect example will be the ball. If you keep a ball on the floor of a moving train or bus moving with a constant velocity, and if somehow it increases its velocity, that is if it possesses acceleration, you will see that without application of force of anybody, nobody has applied any force, it will just move in the backward direction. So it means Newton's law is not applied. It is non-inertial frame of reference, because without application of external force it moves. Clear? So this kind of force are called pseudo force. Okay, pseudo force or imaginary force. Second law, This is about the first law. And second law is that if there is no force, the applied force is proportional to rate of change of velocity, rate of change of momentum. So if there is no force, externally we are not applied any force, so the rest object will remain at rest. A body moving with constant velocity will just keep moving without application. And since we are not applying any force, so there is no action, so it is not going to apply any reactional force also. Clear? So inertial frame of reference, in inertial frame of reference, all Newton's laws are valid. But in non-inertial frame of reference, these are not applicable. If a lift is moving with constant velocity, Newton's laws are applicable. But if it poses acceleration or deceleration, isn't it? When it moves, it will just with increased velocity or with decreasing velocity. If there is any change in velocity, so non-inertial frame of reference, there Newton's laws are not applicable. Clear? Now moves on to a new term, that is impulse of force. Impulse, it means its effect of force. Though this title was not clearly mentioned in the textbook of class 9, but I don't know how many of you saw that it was just slightly touched in the context of the second force. Where it was told there that the rate of change of the applied force is the rate of change of momentum. So suppose m is the mass of a body, clear, and it is moving with a uniform velocity u, and its final velocity is v. A force is applied for some time t, and its final velocity is v. Its velocity may increase or decrease. By applying force, its velocity may be increased, or by applying force, its velocity may be reduced. So it means final velocity is v. So we can say acceleration here, suppose we will assume here that by applying the force, its velocity has increased. So here acceleration is equal to a equals to v minus u by t, we all know that. So from Newton's second law, we all know that F is equal to ma. So substituting the value of a, we get m into v minus t. So this is called impulse of force, that is product of force and its action of time period. So this is also, you can see F into t, that is change in momentum. So what is impulse of a force? Now basically impulse of a force means when a force acts on a body for some time. So the product of the force and the time period of its action is called impulse of a force. You can see impulse of force, we can also say it is equal to change in momentum, that is delta p. So here we can see that change in momentum is equal to product of force into time. So here you can see that is the change in momentum can take place either due to change in force or due to change in time. It means if we apply a large force for a very small period of time, then we also can generate the change in its momentum, or a small force for a long period of time, it also suffers from change in momentum, isn't it? So there are so many examples. While playing cricket, when we hit a ball by bat, or kicking a football during playing of table tennis. So all these are generally, the time period of action is very small, isn't it? So these are generally the perfect example of impulse of force, because here a huge amount of force acts very momentarily. So these are called impulse of a force. So one thing that is the change in momentum may take place either by applying a large force for a very small period of time, because the time period of contact between bat and ball and the foot and the leg and the football is very less, hitting ping pong ball. So all these are by applying a large force for a small period of time. Or if we stop, any body is moving, is coming towards us, and then if we apply a force for a large period of time, for a long period of time, it means we are just trying to stop it, isn't it? In that case, we generally apply the force for a long period of time. It also causes change in momentum. So this is the concept of impulse of force, which was discussed in class 9, though it was not mentioned as impulse of force. So most vital important thing is here. F is equal to change in momentum, that is, so applied force is rate of change of momentum. When time is in the denominator, it means rate of change of momentum. When t is multiplied, it comes into change in momentum. So we can say the unit of impulse of force is the unit of changing the unit of momentum, that is kg per second, gram centimeter per second, like this. Now there are also so many examples in our practical life. You may have seen that in cricket match, while catching a ball, generally players are generally move their hand in the backward direction, isn't it? So what is the reason? The reason is because of T. Or when anybody jumps on the concrete floor, hard floor, you get a severe injury rather than when you jump on a muddy surface or a soft surface, or when we jump on a heap of sand, we don't get pain so much. What is the reason? Now here you can see the applied force, we can also say the reactional force, that is a change in momentum divided by time t. So I will just explain one by one. When a cricketer, when a fielder just try to catch the ball, he generally moves the hand in the backward direction. So what is he doing? He is just trying to increase the time period of contact between hand and the ball. So if t is more, if ball stays in our hand for a longer period of time, so t greater means reactional force is small. So the ball is not going to be, it's not going to apply so much reactional force on your hand. So in that case, there is minimum chance of drop of catch. It cannot come out from your hand. But if anybody tries to catch without moving the hand in the backward direction, what would happen? If he tries to catch the ball like this without moving in the hand backward direction, so the ball will just hit the hand. And in this case, the time period of the time of contact between the hand and the ball is very less. So if time is less, then the reactional force applied by ball on your hand is more. So the reactional force the hand will apply on the ball is more, and it will just come out, jumps out from the hand, and the catch is generally missed. So this is the reason. Second reason, you can just understand by your own, that is when we jump on a concrete surface, isn't it? So the time of contact between the knee or the body and the surface is very less. So the reactional force exerted by the floor is too much, is much more. So that's why it hurts. But when we jump on the heap of sand or any muddy surface, we generally get inside, isn't it? They're deformed. The shape of the heap or the mud is deformed. It means the time period of contact or meeting between our knee and the surface is much more. So the reactional force exerted by the floor is very less, and we don't get so much pain. In the same way, if anybody jumps on any surface by bending the knees, isn't it? It also, we generally get less reactional force. If we jump on any floor, isn't it? Generally it is advised, the athletes know when they jump, isn't it? So generally we will get less reactional force, we will get less injury if we jump on any surface by bending our knees. Bending our knees means the time period between the time period of contact or meeting our knee and the surface is more. So reactional force will be less, and there is a minimum chance of getting injury. Whereas if anybody tries to jump on the floor without bending the knees, time period is less, reactional force is maximum, severe injury may occur. Clear? So this is impulse of force, means if any force acts on a body, a large amount of force acts on a body for some time, then the product of the force and the time is called impulse of force. Now, what is the difference between the general force and the impulse of force? In general force, since when it acts on the body, the time period is not momentarily, isn't it? And it can create acceleration on the body. So from that acceleration and knowing the mass of the body, we can easily find out the applied force, F is equal to ma. But in case of impulse of force, that is kicking the ball, ping pong ball or hitting, since time period is it acts very momentarily. So that for very small period of time, it can change in velocity also, but it cannot be measured so easily. Why? Since time period is very small, so it is not so easy to measure the time and to measure the change in velocity and acceleration. So in that case, by change in the momentum, we generally find out, by changing the momentum, we can find out the application of the applied force. So this is the difference between general force and impulse of force.